Welcome to ChoreoCollab Podcast, where we discuss dance, film, collaboration, and more. Brought to you by Central Florida Choreographers Collaboration. I'm your host, Amanda Van Meter Birch. Today I'll be talking with Madeleine Wilcox about her collaboration with us for Season 3, Project 33, It's Nothing Personal, It's Just Business. Hi, Madeleine. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited to have you on to talk about your project.
Yes.
And a little more information about the backstory and a little history about you. So to start, I want you to let everybody know how you got started in the dance world.
So I've been dancing since I was 4, starting in Indiana. That's where I'm from. And I have a really big classical background coming from a ballet school. I did contemporary and modern as well. So I have the dance concert background. Growing up, I also danced a little bit in Kentucky when I lived there. And then I moved to Tampa to go to USF to be a dance major there. And I feel like I've really opened up into like all the genres at this point. I find myself wanting to do everything, but I think I started off really classically trained and now I'm really getting to this like postmodern contemporary jazz whatever world that I'm in currently.
Blend of everything. I love it.
Yes.
Very eclectic. So what drew you to Tampa in the first place? The school?
The school. So USF is the top dance program in Florida, and we're actually top 8 in the United States. So I really wanted to have that BFA degree under my belt. And I've loved it. I'm on my 4th year now. I graduate in the spring, and I feel like I'm definitely ready to take the professional dance world on with confidence now.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your project.
So my project is called um, It's Nothing Personal, It's Just Business. And I feel like I chose that name because throughout my dance career, I really feel like dance is not looked as much as a business as it should be. And dance is a business world. And like it's like transactional too. It is transactional too in the way that you get auditions, you meet people, it's all about who you know and how well you know them. It's like I feel like these days it's like 50% like how you dance, and like 50% right place, right time, who knows you, how did you meet them, where did you go last summer? And I wanted to sort of capture that in a dance film. And that's why I wanted it to be um, conceptually in a studio, because I feel like it starts like in a studio where you pay for your first dance lesson and then it becomes a business from there, where it's like, where do you get to the point that you're the business itself, like making money for you? And it's very competitive, which is also like the jungle aspect of like the internal characters in the film. And like how do you face the competition in the dance world, and like what is your strategy for that? And everyone looks different, so I feel like having like the 5, including myself, like different dancers in the piece, like taking on this like business world of dance, and like in the end like settling with what we can, but also like not settling, like if you know what I mean, like we're not settling ever. And that's like what dance teaches you to get to set your goal and go for it no matter like what it takes.
Very cool. So what I liked about this piece is that you do address that very hot topic of dance being a business, but it also has a very artistic element to it, which I felt like the jungle theme sort of brought that in, and I thought it was a really unique perspective of the topic. Um, so why was this theme important to you personally?
This theme was important to me personally because I feel like I've definitely become like this hustler in the dance community. Like always, I feel like I'm always applying for the next thing and I'm always going for the next thing. Just this morning, like I was like, I'm just gonna take a quick second and apply for this. Took me like 20 minutes to apply for something else. Like I just like have all my assets together, and that's why I it feels personal to me, because I feel like I've always seen it as a business, and that's why I feel so like inspired to continue to grow my own personal business and what dance can be for me. And some might look at that as toxic because it's an art form, and we don't want to think about it as like we are only here to make money, because at the end of the day, like if you're not doing what you're passionate about, like what is the money to you? But I kind of look at it beyond the money, and I'm thinking of it more as like a personal goal for me to be as successful as I can be in like the business that I've chosen, which is the dance field. So
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so what was your approach in choreographing this project?
so we did about weekly rehearsals. I'm not sure the exact like month we started, but it was a few months of choreography and rehearsing. We used the USF studios. All of us are USF students in the piece, including myself. So we were lucky enough to have that like resource to use when we wanted to use it. And it really was collaborative, and like I wanted to set stuff on them that they felt comfortable using, and like for like the reels of the future too, because like you have dance reels and like you use your video in for your own business, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I wanted them to be really comfortable in like the solo sections of the piece to have choreography that they could use for other purposes. The sun is so bright.
I know you're glowing. It's
I'm
awesome.
glowing. Let me just, there we go. Uh, so that was sort of like the process with it. It was very collaborative, but I also was like definitely setting the movement, like all the movement I set. And then I was like, let's like add your own personal, like I know I was working with Sabina and like she was like the snake, like figure of the piece. And I was like, I want you to like have some snake movements, but like what are you comfortable with doing as far as like bending your back and like you can bend in interesting ways. And she kind of explored that with me. So I feel like I kind of did that with everyone. So it was like an individualized approach to the movement, but it was pretty set and it was very easy. We were done pretty early, so we were just perfecting like how to do it would look on camera. I think the hardest thing was remembering that it's going to be a film and not a live.
Mhm.
So like how are we going to play to the camera instead of just being like proscenium perspective?
Yes. Well, I think each of them played their characters fantastic. So what the material that you gave them, it just seemed to fit each of them really, really well. So what was the relationship like working with the dancers?
We were all like really close before it started. So it was honestly like it didn't feel like work or something that we were like trying to do, which also I kind of feel like plays into the overall theme again. Like even though it is a business, like you doesn't mean you can't have fun and like it isn't your passion, like what you're doing. So I feel like for us, like we would always talk about like how lucky we were to like get to do this kind of stuff like for our career, like to make art and like that's why we're passionate. So it was always really fun and like we would like just make a day out of the rehearsals we'd have when we would have them, and it was a really good experience, and like the connection showed on film for me too that we were like all really close so we could have that like tension of like and that be like real because we could like feel the emotions of like, each other in the room.
Mhm. And that energy was very apparent on set too. Like
Mm-hmm.
you guys were cheering each other on, like there was like
Mm-hmm.
yes in the background. It was really a
Yeah,
great
it's really,
environment.
I feel like it's most important, like when choreographing and other works I've done not on film too, like for the cast to like be as in it as you are. Because if that's not the same, then you're not the product, it won't be as good. So
Agreed. How do you think they interpreted the choreography that you gave them?
I think they really took the fierceness that I wanted and took it to like another level, which I was like super proud of them for. I also think that they really took what I said about making it your own and they made it their own, which again is not something that can be taught. But I also feel like that just shows like, you know, for us, like what we've been learning at USF, like as a collegiate dancer, like it's working. Like we're getting to have like the creative ability to make the decisions and have them work on camera because they were just very confident. And I feel like also they were like, this looks great. And like, we're going to tell you it looks great. And then if things weren't working, they're like, let's change it. And it was like a moment where we could like have the conversation.
Mhm. What was the film technical aspect like for you guys?
The film technical aspect, as far as like filming, like the day of filming.
Yeah, like so going from, maybe what you're used to choreographing for performance versus choreographing for the camera.
Well, I think we enjoyed the aspect of not having to have transition work be in the choreography because, you know, when you perform live or even just in a one take video, like you have to add in every transition because you're going to be seen the whole time. So I think it was just an interesting process to be like, and we're cutting, like this is when it changes. So we would just stop moving and then move to the next thing. So sort of at first it took some practice to be like, oh, but are they going to see me? And I'm like, no, like you won't be on camera. So you just act, just move, just briefly step to the side. So I think that was like a little bit of adjusting, but some of the dancers have worked with CFCC before too. So they were like aware of like what it would be like with the process of the camera. I actually think all of them except one had worked with CFCC before. So we
Yes.
were all sort of like, okay, like, yeah, it's going to be this and this. But thankfully, too, we take a course at USF that's for dance on film. So we were
Mhm.
all like aware of like, okay, like this is how it's different. But in the rehearsal process, it's definitely a different perspective to be like, okay, just walk off, like,
Mhm.
because you're not going to be seen. It's fine. So I think that was the biggest adjustment with the
Yeah.
camera.
Well, and plus you were in Carla's piece last year, so you had experience as a
Yes.
dancer. You had a little bit, you know.
Right. I knew I remember that experience and being like, yeah, we'll like take a second and then that will be moved and that kind of thing.
Mhm. So, what challenges arose from the film process?
I think the biggest challenge was probably just making sure the shot was not capturing anything extra. I remember like moving some water bottles in some points
Mhm.
because like I decided to bring a yellow water bottle that day and it appeared in some shots, but we were just moving it. And it's also just like I think just making sure that it looked the way like that I was envisioning it to look. But I was pretty like lucky in the sense that it all really to me worked out pretty well. Like there was nothing that I was like, oh well. I know like the ending I sort of did on the fly with like let's do it in a trio and duo thing instead of a whole group, which was the original idea, just because of the space and what I thought it would look like on camera, which was a good call. So I
Mhm.
think that was like an on the fly, but thankfully too, this was my first choreography feat. So I was like used to being like, okay, let's make a last minute decision. And like again, blessed with the cast and the crew because very like the professionalism, we were just like, okay, let's put it together. And it worked out pretty well.
Mhm. It was a great group, wasn't it? Like
Yeah,
everybody
it
was super
was.
flexible, everybody was super
Mhm.
positive. It was
I think
a
we were also out
fantastic
of there
day.
like 2 hours early or something. It was just a very quick like process, which is the best. It really
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, it was efficient. It just you got in the
Mhm.
studio and you worked. And I think that comes from the amount of preparation that you did ahead of time and knowing what you wanted.
Mhm.
So, and it was communicated well on the day. So,
Right, right.
um, what were some of your favorite elements of collaboration for the project?
Well, I really loved having the collaboration photographer there. I think as far as the music I use, like for Michael Wall, like he was emailing me before, so that was pretty awesome to like have him like and I don't personally know him, so I think that was like he's like, oh, like send me like the finished product, like send me how to watch it, like I'll watch it. I'm like, of course. So I think like that was really awesome. Just like all the people that came to for the set that day that participated in filming or just helping direct, like that was great. It's always better to have like more than less people involved in like a thing like this, especially with film, because you can have so many different perspectives on like what you're getting out of it. Um, I've always liked having more collaboration than less. And I think since doing this project, I found myself doing more collaboration work at USF and
Mhm.
just in my other professional gigs, which has been really great. So,
I happen to agree. That's our whole thing.
right.
Um, so was the process what you expected?
Honestly, yes. So I think I had a really smooth and great experience. I was doing all of this before I was doing like some study abroad work in France and doing some other things around the United States this summer. So I think was like I was like glad of how smooth it went, but I also like knew it would be smooth because it was a lot of preparation, there was a lot of planning, and it was good doing it the year before as a dancer to also be like, okay, like this is what it's going to look like, this is the time frame. Again, to have a group that had like, other experience with it, and they were also committed to the project the whole time too, like let's get this done. Like I don't think anyone ever missed a rehearsal. We were just on it. That's the blessings of having 5 people too,
Mhm.
little group. um but yeah,
True.
no, it was great.
Yeah. And they were all, like you said, on top of it,
Right.
super on it. So, how did you get involved with CFCC in the first place?
That's a great question. I honestly think I saw you guys' Instagram rewind like 2 years ago now, and I was like, I'll apply. I think I heard it through Sammy, which she's in my
Mm.
piece too, but I heard just some other USF students, because USF students like pretty involved with CFCC. So they were like, you should audition. So then I sent in like the dancer tape, and I was in Carla's piece. And this was right after like the peak of COVID started to lessen. So I
Mhm.
started to get involved then. And then I was like, oh, I should choreograph. And here I am.
So what's next for you?
So currently I just turned in my US Fulbright application a couple weeks ago. I've been working on that for over a year. So I want to get my MA in dance practice and performance at the University of Roehampton. That's the goal. That's in the UK.
Wow.
So that would be the goal for next fall. I'm in the process of applying for a bunch of things, fingers crossed. Also working on some like BFA capstone projects for USF since I'm graduating next spring. Just preparing to enter into the professional world, but thankful that I have all these experiences because the resume is looking great.
Mhm.
The business aspect is looking great as this has been a great segue
Mhm.
into the last year of undergrad. So that's what I'm doing. Very busy as usual.
I love that.
Lots
So
of things.
you're spreading your wings. You're probably going to be
Right.
leaving Florida.
Goals to leave Florida. Love
Okay, of
Florida. Probably looking to
course.
leave it because why not? This is like the third or fourth state I've lived in at this point. So I'm
Mhm.
sort of like on the nomad lifestyle. Um, but that's the goals as of now.
How can people find you?
So on my Instagram is Madeleine.Wilcox, and it's Madeleine spelled like the French pastry. So it's Madeleine dot Wilcox. I have my website linked there, and I also have my Pinterest linked there. So those are my two big ones. I also have a Facebook, not as active, but it's still on Facebook. Pinterest, website, Instagram is where you can find me. All of these are linked on my Instagram. Also on the CFCC website, it's all linked there.
Awesome. Well, Madeline, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and working with you this season and last season. And I hope we get to do collaborations in the future. But if
Yes.
not, we look forward to seeing you fly on in the rest of your dance journey.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I've loved every minute of it.
That was Madeleine Wilcox, Season 3 choreographer with Central Florida Choreographers Collaboration. You can see Madeleine's project along with dozens of other films in ChoreoCollab Film Fest 2022. ChoreoCollab Film Fest 2022 is screening online until November 20th exclusively at ChoreoCollab.com. We hope you'll join us next time. Keep creating, friends.